All right, welcome to another episode of the Dickie and Donny Show presented by Business on Purpose. My name is Dickie, aka Shawn, and I'm here with Brandon and Melissa Wood, and we are super excited to talk all things pre-construction and AI today. So Melissa, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah,
and
Melissa, we do this with every guest we've ever had. We're going to ask you a series of 3 questions really quick. So
Okay.
I will start us off nice and easy, and then Dickie will get one. But for me, cake or ice cream?
Ooh, I would say cake.
Okay.
Beach or mountains?
Ooh, mountains.
Mountains, okay.
Okay, and then last one. If you could get rid of one state in America, which state would you get rid of? Just it's all wiped. The people included, it's all wiped out. Which one would you choose?
Oh my goodness. That's, I mean, I am in Texas, so I guess I couldn't say Texas. I don't know. I really don't know.
You're too nice. You're too nice. Okay, how about this? West Coast or East Coast? Which coast are you going?
Oh, I'm going East Coast. No, I prefer East Coast.
East
Okay.
Coast. That's what's up. That's what's up.
I
East
love it.
Coast. Well, this is episode 8, and we are here on Dickie and Donny. So, Melissa, I'll intro you. So glad to have
Okay.
you. We met at a Build Expo. We do a lot of speaking at Build Expos, and so you're in the construction space. Our owner Scott connected me to you, and I have not spent a small amount of time thinking about FORMUS Tech in the last 3 months, and that may sound odd to you, but the work you're doing is so cool that I'm like, I keep thinking about it. And we
That's awesome.
we work with contractors that are struggling through, design, and they spend 6 to 9 months getting it ready and prepped, and then they go through 100 change orders. And so the work you do I don't know, it's been on my mind. And so it's been a really cool opportunity to have you here. Would you just take a couple seconds and kind of talk through your process of how you got here? I know you got a lot of experience in the prop tech space per se, property technology.
Yes. Well, I've been in the prop tech space. I started years ago, actually, when I was 19 years old. So I've been in this space for over 25 years. I'm not actively in the space, but I started out in my small hometown in North Carolina. There was a tech company that developed software to maintain maintenance systems in schools. And
Was it Facility Dude?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, my brother-in-law worked for Facility Dude.
Oh my gosh, that's a small world. Well, actually, the company was called Applied Computer Technologies.
Okay.
It was it's a small town of Coates, North Carolina, and it was bootstrapped from I think the late 80s to the 90s, and was acquired by Carolina Power and Light, and then became Fortune 500 company that eventually, and I hope I get this correctly, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's the same core founders of Applied Computer Technologies later started Facility Dude.
Okay.
Cool. Which also, School Dude and then Facility Dude.
Okay.
So we started right out of high school. My co-founder Joseph and I had the opportunity it's a very small town, very tight-knit community. We were able to work there as part of the startup, and that was the kind of kick-started both of our careers. And so that was in the property space, but then I went on to, went to college. I went on to work with various startups, not necessarily in the property space, but through my experience with working with Applied Computer Technologies, I really had an interest and a heart for working with startups. And so thankfully, I been able to primarily focus on startups my entire career. Then, let's see, about 9 years ago, my family moved from Nashville, Tennessee to Austin, Texas, and we bought a house. We'd never renovated before. The house needed to be completely renovated, but being that my husband and I are both creatives, we thought, just do this ourselves, which was the first mistake.
What could go wrong?
But we also, let me back up a little bit. I say let's do it this ourselves. It's not our initial plan. We actually did hire a contractor. We didn't know anybody, so we found somebody on Nextdoor, and it ended up being a disaster of a situation to the point that it put our family in danger. And so I was really just burdened by that in a way of like, you know what, no one's coming to my house. We'll just do this ourselves. And so we spent the next few years just kind of doing a little bit ourselves. And then after then, getting to know people in my neighborhood. I had a friend who had their bathrooms redone, and she was just raving about the process. It was beautiful work. So I said, okay, now I now have someone that's been through this experience, so I'll trust this contractor. So the contractor came over, and I told him, I said, okay, look, this is how this is going to go down. We're going to work together. I need, you to tell me, you're going to go through the plan with me. You're going to tell me what to expect as far as cost, who's going to show up at my house when, what are the different milestones and what to expect. And I told him too, I said, if you're able to do this within my budget and timeline, within reason, like I also understood that this is a renovation. So there's some things they could get in there and something could be wrong with the plumbing. Like, there's some things that are out of their control, right? I had a very, and I understood that. I just wanted to make sure that the communication was very clear with that contractor and us. And so he did. He got it done under budget and within the time frame. And there was a plumbing issue that got resolved, because I told him, if there's an issue, you tell me immediately and let's talk about it. And so I thought to myself, like, well, this all comes down to just really great communication.
Yeah,
But still at this point, what do I know? I'm a homeowner. I've never been in the GC or the architect or designer space, right? And so in the back of my mind, I'd been thinking for a few years, like, with my background being in technology, like there has to be a better way to communicate with homeowners and help set these expectations. And then I had an opportunity to work. I was advising a startup in California right before the pandemic. That was a design build company, and I got in to help them with sales and marketing. And just from my own interest, I got a little bit more involved in that and just really kind of got in a little bit more in the operations side of things, and really started understanding the barriers from the renovation professionals' perspective. And through just my 5 years with them and kind of digging into these barriers from their perspective, I realized, yes, this comes down to miscommunication and poor project data, which is where I came up with the idea behind FORMUS. And this was about 3 years ago. And so I decided,
Well, it sounds like you already GC'd your own project. I mean, you told him what was going to happen, what the timeline is, what the budget was. Sounds like you were the GC of the project.
yeah, and I had friends and family members who are in the space that kind of laughed at me. They're like, "Good luck with that."
Yeah.
And it happened. And what the great thing is that we've been testing this model, this process on a few renovations, because we started last year taking on some renovations to follow this process. And we just 100% completed one. Our first one is all the way through construction, and there was zero design changes
Wow.
and did not go over budget.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I mean, that's like a
That is.
silver bullet, right? Like that's an incredible feat to
Yeah.
accomplish. Well done.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
I have a question after that, and thank you for walking through that. It's awesome. Like, it's to be the homeowner and then to step into the other side and be like, okay, so this is why it's frustrating. It's just so many people aren't willing to step on the other side, and then there's just these unmet frustrations at all times. But what would you say is the biggest headache that you guys alleviate in people with, if they were to buy into your process and use FORMUS? What's the biggest headache that you alleviate, where if they don't have FORMUS, they're almost guaranteed or high likelihood they're going to walk into it? What would you say that would be?
I would say the communication, having
Between
clear,
homeowner and contractor. Okay.
yes. Yeah, and making sure, well, when I say contractor, so our platform is really designed to help with the pre-construction, the planning. So it's really
Okay.
the architect, designer, homeowner, making sure, all the wants and needs and all the things that are necessary are all communicated and everyone is on the same page, so that when the project is fully planned and designed, that communication is very clear across all stakeholders, and then it gets translated into the construction. So then the GC and his team has all that, the plan design that was clearly communicated across all boards, so that he can then go and execute it without having to go back to the architect or designer or homeowners. Like, well, what do you want about this? Or how are we supposed to do this? All of it's been communicated and documented in the FORMUS platform.
Well, that's
Okay.
like a very like a lot of that communication is more art than science, of like pulling those specs out and getting people's preferences. So how are you able to data drive that more of like a feeling. And then two, how does project management software interact with that? Because typically our builders they've got some software or some sort of word-based type of product that says, here's the SKU, here's the number. So maybe those are my two questions on how y'all's tech is different.
So if I understand your question correctly, so how are we kind of doing that communication, helping the homeowner plan to then managing that project? Is that what you're asking?
So like you're pulling out of people what they want, right? So architects, designers, they say, oh, I want a gazebo. Well, you want a white one? Do you want a wood one? You have to kind of pull that out, then make that data. Then you have to
Yes.
use data to then drive it, right? Is that what I'm
Yes.
hearing? Okay.
Yeah, 100%. So that is our proprietary product, SADIE. It's the Spatial Artificial Design Intelligence Engine that is trained with all the data that a homeowner would need to be able to in real time educate them. So for example, the homeowner starts with an idea and they engage with our AI agent SADIE to say, I'm looking to renovate my bathroom. I'm renovating this to potentially to live in for a few years, to then sell. Here are the things that I like. And SADIE, and this is the initial intake of a project. And SADIE is then going to let them know in real time. Well, you say you have these design preferences, but you're looking to sell in a few years. You're not going to get your return on investment based on this information. So what SADIE's trained on construction design data. And then as they're asking these questions, she's able to say in real time and give them advice in real time based on the input of their input. And so this is helping really those design professionals spend the hours that a lot of times they spend just educating, helping homeowners understand and make better decisions. Sadie's able to do that in real time and cutting their time down significantly.
So that is awesome. And you explained, I'm not going to have you do it again, but you explained what it meant and it blew my mind what SADIE means, which was awesome. But so that sounds, if I'm the homeowner, my wife and I want to redo our bathroom, having that on my end seems really helpful. What is the interface with SADIE? And if you're willing to talk about it with FORMUS from the homeowner, and then do the contractors just basically get FORMUS, they get SADIE and they're like, here, run with it. Like I don't have to answer any questions, or do the contractors or GC, whoever it would be, do they interact with SADIE at all to remind them, hey, what did they choose? Or is it simply information that they'd no longer have to give? Like, where's the interface on both ends with it?
So SADIE's actually is designed, really the buyers of our product SADIE are the renovation professionals. And I can't say that it's just an architect or just an interior designer or a GC, because there is different entry points of a project for homeowners. Some GCs manage the design, the architect manages everything. Sometimes it starts with the architect, sometimes it starts with the interior designer. So right now we've designed the platform for, we call them project owners, right? Like whoever's owning that project would have a subscription to the FORMUS platform. And then SADIE is in that platform guiding the entire interaction, the process and the interaction between the homeowner and the different stakeholders. So that project owner, if it's an architect, might pull in an interior designer or a GC. And so SADIE is managing, it's guiding those interactions and the communication and the process. And maintaining all the communication and data that comes through. So it starts with the project owner when engaging with us. We'll have a subscription, and then our product then is there just to guide, to not only collect that or manage the communication and collect the data, but really to guide a process. And our process is what's really unique to us, because we have broken apart the workflow of the pre-construction process, and we've put it back together in a way that we know works. To my point earlier of how it worked for me personally, but then it's also working. It worked for this one project we finished two actually that we finished last year, that led us to now we're in 9 more projects, and it's been going great. So we know this process works, and so we've taken this process and we're now applying AI agents to the process to streamline it. And that is so this AI agents are basically SADIE that is guiding those renovation professionals through the process. So it's kind of teaching those renovation professionals a different way
To look at the
of
Imagine that.
process.
of managing homeowners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we're designing a way that makes it super easy for
Yeah.
them. So what we're hearing from these renovations, the reason that why we have our first project was so successful now that we have grown tremendously over the last few months is because we have saved these renovation professionals over 50% of their time that they usually spend on non-productive tasks. And the data shows that 35% of a renovation professional's job is spent on one project is spent on non-productive tasks. So a lot of that
What's
kind
one
of
of those things like emailing,
emailing,
conversation?
searching for documents,
Right.
answering
Hmm.
questions that's probably been answered a million times already by someone. You know what I mean? Like it's those back and forth nuances that SADIE is able to eliminate and provide information in real time. And so it's working. And that is why right now our renovation professional partner that we're primarily working with right now is paying us 40% of her fee to keep doing it because it's brought her so much efficiency. She has increased her workload by 50% of how many
That's
projects she can
amazing.
take on.
Good for y'all. Man, I
Yeah.
have.
That word non-productive task, I mean, that strikes me because so much of our work is building process, clarifying steps to get people to be more efficient, to not be, spending so much time in things that are not producing or things that you don't like. Like nobody likes email and conversation, but we like building things. So like I want to be in a
Yes.
house building, growing, but I don't want to be, planning as much. But anyways, that's a non-productive task. That is a great
Yeah.
word.
I was going to say, like, especially when you're working with architects and interior designers who are creatives, they do not want to do the administration, those in
So
between
true.
tasks.
You seem
So
like you've got both sides. Do you
I
you kind of
do,
you go
yes,
both ways? Well,
I do. Yes,
We'll celebrate that on this podcast. We celebrate
put
that.
the balloons up.
my advisor and I were just talking about that the other day because it's I am a creative. I mean, my background is in art and design, which is what got me started. But I think through my 25 plus years in working with, I've had various roles in startups and then just working with startups and wearing multiple hats and then just being in the tech industry. I kind of have like a trained left brain. Let's say the left brain is
Hmm.
the right is the creative, right? I always get it mixed up.
Left brain, I don't know.
Whichever side.
Yeah.
One and one's one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a kind of a trace. I do have a unique kind of balance there that's
Good
allowed
for
me
you.
to be in the role that I'm in now. So
Mhm.
That's awesome. Melissa, this question stems from a lot of let's look at the specific AI piece. We work with a lot of owners that are aware of AI, but there is a strong hesitance to engage with it. And I've probably heard 15 to 20 different reasons of it's going to take over the world and I don't want to help it. And I've heard people that always say please because they think when it takes over the world, it will benefit them, that they always ask please. Or I've literally heard it so many different things. Or I don't want to get my information onto the cloud and I don't want it to know what I'm doing. And there's a lot of fear around AI. I don't think anyone would question the level of efficiency it can work at, but there's a lot of fear. I'm sure you've gotten that as you're approaching this. What would you say to our listeners that are primarily in the age where technology itself is uncomfortable to work with, and AI in that just seems very personal and it feels weird? What would you say to those people listening of like, hey, either drop your fear or there's reason to be scared because it's really good? What would you say to that?
I mean, I agree to both of those statements.
Yeah.
AI could
Yeah.
be very
Okay.
scary, but you also have to think about the company that is applying that AI, right? Like my co-founder, he just graduated from UT with his master's in AI. He has tenure. He is a Microsoft cloud expert, and he has really been very intentional about how we're using AI and making sure that it's ethical and
That's
it
great.
protects the homeowners and the renovation professionals. Like yes, It's a new technology that I think, especially in this industry, we're going to get resistance to. But it's also technology. It's the new way, right? Like it's
Yeah.
something that they're
Yep.
going to need to adopt. Like we have this phrase where we say, I know some renovation professionals, architects and designers, I can't tell you how many have said, "Oh, you're basically going to replace AI is going to replace my job." And my response is absolutely not. It's going to replace the jobs of people who aren't using AI. And so, in a way of like, yeah, if you're not using AI to help streamline your process, which is the new way, then there's the chance that, you might lose your job because someone else is able to do it more efficiently because they are applying AI. And so I would say that it is definitely something that, just like any new technology that's come up over the years, like there's always going to be some resistance, but it's eventually, if you're going to want to be successful in in the space you're in, you're going to have to adopt to the new technology, but just be
Yeah.
mindful of the people behind it, right?
That's helpful.
That's what it comes down to. Like, just be mindful of who's using it and how they're using it.
Hmm.
And yeah. So.
Yeah, that's great. The reason I think we connected earlier is because I'm doing a lot of our work on our software development for our operating system and helping businesses have a master process and operating system to run vision, core values, job roles, hiring. And one part is operations, which is where you tie in. One of the things our software development kind of strategy friend that's helping run this for us, he's talking about the conversational nature of AI and how instead of like looking for a doc, I was in a house this weekend, a friend of mine's building a house, and I walked into their bathroom and there's like a QR code that links to Builder Trend and it's got the selections on it. And I was like, well,
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. That's like the most modern builder thing I've ever seen in a long time because most
Yeah.
of our builders are paper and pen. But I think what you're proposing is even more advanced than that. So can you talk a little
Mhm.
bit more about like the conversational nature of what you imagine this to look like?
Well, the conversational nature is really what makes this adoptable for all the stakeholders, from the architects to GCs, the subs. We're our interface. We're in the middle of creating the UI UX design around safety. Because right now, the most of the work that we're doing is still very manual because we're very early stage and what we're in development. Because we created a prototype, so a very simple version of SADIE that we've
Mm.
been testing with these home renovations, and now that we've validated, we're now going full on in product design. And what we're telling our design team is that this has to be, SADIE really needs to drive the the process of even onboarding on this platform, right? Make it as simple as possible for them to understand how to onboard a new customer, how to, send them tasks, or how to, whatever the milestone is throughout the process. SADIE's going to be driving that to make it as simple as possible. So it's just through that
Mm.
conversational AI. And so what you're seeing with those QR codes, if you can imagine, what we're building is going to feed right into builder trend. So if you think about it, it's a pre-planned, ready to go packaged project that then again just can flow into builder trend. Builder trend now has all the data that they need to provide for the GC and the subs to do the job. And so they scan that QR code, and SADIE can be part of that somehow, in a way of like, if they scan the QR code and SADIE was to pop up and say, what part of who's, if it's like, say the plumber is scanning that QR code, he came to do his part of the job, he will then have, all the data he possibly needs to be able to complete that project just through,
Mm.
kind of that pre-packaged planning. And I have a use case with, just now that we're talking about plumber, this last project that we did, we had delivered this package to the GC. The plumber showed up, but it was about an hour outside of Austin. And so this plumber he got up early. He went to the homeowner's house and said, "I want to try to get this done today." And they were they were moving plumbing, and they were doing a wall-mounted toilet. It was a big project and very ambitious
Mm.
for him to want to try to do it in a day. And so he got there before the project manager did, on this project. So he asked the homeowner, "I want to try to get this wrapped up today. What do I need to do?" And the homeowner's like, I don't know. And so he's like, so instead of having to reach out to the project manager, so, which would typically happen, they pulled up the FORMUS platform, pulled up the plumbing plans, and the plumber looked at it and says, "Oh, I have everything I need." Okay. He got the
Wow.
job done in a day. He got the whole thing done.
That's amazing. That is like the killer story for your work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leverage that. That's awesome.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, that's really cool. I think that our thought is always, helping GCs, systematize and build process. Where do you find this information? And I think what I hear you saying is we just provide, we're building the housing where it all lives. So instead of having to go to Dropbox and Buildertrend and Google Docs and email and text message, I mean, it's just a lot of my work is just saying, can we get all the information in one place and all agree to go there? And everyone's like, yes, we can do that. So this is
and SADIE is there. She's part of the entire process where
It's
she's
great.
in real time collecting all that information and putting it in one place.
what are your kind of ideal clients? I know you said project owners are your ideal clients. Who are those people? Like, I mean, if I'm a builder and I'm wanting to get on this kind of trend, is there a way to reach out to you and onboard onto you and to try FORMUS for a bit?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, we're currently in product development. So we have not released a product yet to onboard professionals. We're working really hard on getting that that done. But for now, we have partnered with a few renovation professionals. We have a waiting list right now. But we're happy to talk to any renovation professional that is a project owner that would be interested in having us help them with that pre-planning of a project. So we'll talk to anyone. I mean, it is a case-by-case scenario for us right now because we are still very small and we're building the actual product. But you could also just go to formus.ai, so it's FORMUS.ai, and sign up for our newsletter, or you'll see SADIE is on there collecting information if you're a homeowner or you're a product vendor that wants to eventually have your product as part of, which is something we didn't really get into, but there's the streamlining of procurement part of what we're doing as well that SADIE is able to help with. So if you're a product vendor interested in being kind of an affiliate partner, you can sign up there. And then of course, renovation professionals can sign up.
So you're telling me that you're going to build a pre-construction plan, schedule it, plan it, order the materials will arrive on site on the right timing. Is that where your long-term plan is?
Yeah, we're currently doing that. So this last project, as soon as it was a couple who they were pregnant and they wanted to have everything designed before the baby arrived, and then they wanted to start construction very soon after the baby arrived.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was very important that we had all this buttoned up. And as soon as they gave us, we had everything collected, ready to go as far as products. As soon as they said, okay, we're ready, we submitted the order, and in just a couple of days, they had crates of products delivered to their house. And the homeowner said, my DoorDash doesn't even work this fast. So it's just part of the value of what we have, that spending the time to really plan and get everything organized, ready to go, brings so much more efficiency throughout the rest of the process.
Yeah.
It's almost that slow down to speed up type thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Melissa, we are grateful you spent the time with us, and man, what a cool and powerful tool. We are, not only, for those listening, we're not only in construction as business coaches with Business on Purpose, but I think 85 to 86% of our current clients are in construction. So that pre-construction piece is huge. And man, the headaches of change orders, and they changed their mind, and we all forgot what they chose, and the grout color's wrong because we didn't write it down. And man, one of my clients always says it just can't happen fast enough, and it's because they're having to go back and redo it, and then nope, not so. You're in a formidable workspace, that's for sure. And it sounds like you've created a cool platform for renovation professionals. So yeah, thanks for jumping on us.
How far are you from Bernie?
From where?
Bernie, Texas, like south of Houston. You know where that is?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I think
near San Antonio.
Got to be 2 hours.
Yeah, I would say it's about 2 hours. We're
everything.
About
groceries are 2 hours away in Texas. So
I have a client down that way that has a really, really thorough pre-construction process, design. They do design build, do really beautiful houses. But I would love to like pair what they've built up next to you and see how that would. So I'm going to connect you to somebody there who's lovely.
That would be great.
She's
Yes, we
wonderful.
are always like, especially right now with the stage that we're in with product design. I mean, we're really digging into every step of this process and figure out like what is the best use of AI to streamline this process, right? So anyone, especially those that already have pretty buttoned up, streamlined processes, are really of huge value for us to talk to right now.
awesome.
So I'd love to be connected.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that connection. She's the designer sales, but is like just the light of the world. I love her. She's so fun. So I think y'all will get along well. And she's from
That's
Texas, so
awesome.
you know.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well,
Good.
thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And where can
Well,
people
thanks for having me.
Formus.ai, they go to the website,
Mhm.
they can sign up for that. Any other places to connect
They
with
could
you? And
absolutely. They could also just email me mwood@formus.ai.
Formus.ai.
In
Awesome.
Wood at
M Woods.
formus.ai.
And if you
Yeah, and
have
also our Instagram is formus.ai as well.
Nice.
We haven't
Easy.
been super we haven't been super active on it, but now that we are completing projects, that's the exciting part. Like you can see, we just did a little reel on our project that we just finished, and it's really beautiful, and it's really
That's
amazing to
awesome.
see that there was no design changes or budget overrun. Like to
That's
see
the
the
goal.
telling you,
progression is
that
pretty
is
amazing.
incredible. Like
Yeah, that's the
if I had
goal.
heard, yeah, that's incredible. All our builders are dreaming of this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
on time, under budget, or one of the other. That is amazing. Well, if you have any questions for us as business advisors and coaches, or want to grow your business, you can go to businessonpurpose.com/healthy and take a free assessment on how healthy is your business. And our
Mhm.
goal to liberate business owners from chaos. And we will do that with AI or SADIE or any of the above to make you more efficient and really do the work you love. So,
Yeah.
Melissa, thank you for being here, and excited to
Thank
see you
you.
soon.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks, Melissa.
Bye.